All right, so it's been a week. You've been diligently writing down all your habit patterns and tracking and then contemplating. You're building this awareness. So, what's the next step? How do we take this data, this information, so we can achieve the goal of conscious control of our lives? We can consciously act in the way that is going to create the results we want, or the life we want, or whatever it is that we want. So, first, we have to figure out which area, which habit, which pattern needs to be addressed first. And there's a couple ways to do this. First is, I would look at for something that is very intense. Something that when it happens, it occurs, it throws you way off. It almost changes who you are, how you act, interact with people. You can no longer enjoy certain things that you did like before. It may have lasting effects of more from moments to hours to days. All right, so even if it happened once, but it happened that one time and it threw you off for 3 or 4 days, it's definitely something to look into. Second, say you don't have this huge low or up, or you don't have those valleys and those peaks. So then you have to look at frequency. And your frequency is the amount of times that a certain habit happens. So over time, if we have something that we just do over time, 100 times a day, 100 times a week, whatever that is, it accumulates, it compounds, and it continues to establish and reinforce a pattern. Thankfully, with something that does happen a lot, it does actually give you an opportunity to be aware more, because it's really hard. Even if it happens one time a week, but that throws you off, it's really difficult to be aware of when that is happening and then stop it. So that's kind of a positive note to something that you think it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I do this all the time. No, so don't worry about it. This process takes time. You have neural pathways that are really dictating your behavior. And what we have to do is reestablish other ones so you can begin to choose which behavior you want. And with time, that deepens the ones that you want, makes it easier to do those ones, and then it lessens or weakens the other pathways. So then this is, it's a habit. It happens without effort. So once you figured out which one you got to do, or which behavior you have to address, then you have to continuously remind yourself of that. So if you're in the gym, you have a behavior, you still have to trigger yourself to be aware. Okay, so we still have the awareness, you still have to cue yourself so that you can stop or interrupt that behavior pattern. So that's the next step. Once you find yourself in that behavior, you have to interrupt it enough where you can then reframe or replace that with something else, and then you need to practice that. So that's the whole thing. Awareness, cue, stop, replace or reframe, and then practice. Together, those over time will actually, they'll develop the neuronal pathways that you need to make that change. So let's give you an example of something. Let's say that you're really anxious before a heavy lift, and you found that wow, that I got really shaky, I wasn't as accurate with my snatch, or whatever it is, it negatively influenced, or it definitely wasn't going to positively influence my lift. So you have an understanding, you cue, or you have something set up for the coach to remind you, or you have a watch, whatever that alarm, whatever that is. And then when you notice that's happening, you stop it, you interrupt it. And sometimes this is, especially with anxiety, breathing. Breathing is a great one to interrupt. And so instead of saying oh man, I'm gonna miss this, and this and this and this is gonna happen because I missed it, I'm not good enough, I'm not feeling good, you can go, I haven't even done it yet. This I can do. I'm gonna visualize it, I go through, practicing it in my head. I'm taking in all the different things that I would normally when I'm actually doing it. Visualize it. Okay, I see, I affirm, I can do this. I will do this. And then you practice. And so you go through, that's one technique, that's one way to do that. Even if you fail at that, you can say, hey, okay, I failed. I'm not good enough. Wait, stop. All right, so I failed. Why was I unsuccessful? Oh, I did this, this, and this, or this happened. Okay, so you learned. So that is not a failure, that is a learning process. Okay, You've reframed it. You've stopped it. You reframed it. Now you keep practicing that. Then over time, it gets easier and easier. But this stuff doesn't just happen for people that maybe struggle with emotional instability or don't have a really good understanding of how deeply they're affected. A lot of times, like someone might be like, "I'm fine. Like I'm generally happy. I don't need this stuff." Well, okay, that's fine. Let's put it in a different context then, and hopefully it will show the value to you. Let's say that you are being competitive and you have an event, and it doesn't have to be anything professional. It could just be a local amateur competition, but you have a strategy. So you develop a strategy, and because you know that strategy is going to optimize or give you the best potential result based on who you are. So all right, so competition starts. All right, you're going at your pace. All of a sudden you see someone just take off, or they're just blowing by you, or they're doing heavier weight, and so you abandon your strategy and you go try and keep up with them, and then what ends up happening? You crash. You're not successful, or not as successful as you could be. So that's why we have this strategy. So to put it in this context, you would have a coach, you have a heart rate monitor, you have maybe your strategy on a piece of paper right in front of you so you know and remind. And so when you start to have that tendency, you go, wait, stop. I know that if I don't do this, if I continue to follow someone else, I'm going to crash and then I'm not going to do well. All right, so I'm going to replace understand. I'm reframing my understanding and my thoughts, and then I act in the way that's along with that. Now, that's not going to happen one time. It's probably going to happen multiple times in the competition. So that's how you practice and continue that. So there's a bunch of different examples to this. It's just figuring out really what works best for you or what your pattern is, and then having some way that interrupts, changing how you perceive that, and then practicing that perception. That's it. And I'm more than willing, I would love to help you out with any sort of questions you have on a specific example. I can even do a video on it. So if you have something, you can go ahead and email me, or you can just leave a comment in the blog below, and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, good luck with this. Enjoy the process, and every time, remember, every struggle builds more potential later on. Be well, enjoy the moment.